Well, welcome everyone to New Light Temple's February service. My name is Reverend Tom Schwendler, and I'm honored to be here with you tonight. I'm a 2017 graduate of All Faiths Seminary International, the greatest class. Woohoo! I'm sure Reverend Bergman will attest to that. Since I was ordained, I started a marriage ministry. You might say I sort of made love as my practice. Well, did that for a few years, continued to be a wedding officiant. Last year, I actually published a book for newly engaged and recently married couples. We'll talk a little bit about that later. This month's theme is love and friendship, and it's a fitting theme. February happens to be the month of love, really. Got Valentine's Day, which we celebrated earlier this week. And it's also a nice follow-up to last month's service, where we talked about a number of things, including the Golden Rule. I'm sure that as supporters of the interfaith movement, that you'd also agree that all religions and spiritual traditions really originate, and I would say lead to the same place, which is love. We'll take a look at our agenda for tonight. Let's start out with some seasonal observations. Reverend Catherine Congdon will lead us in an invocation. We'll talk a little bit about love and friendship as promised. Reverend Dr. Bud James will lead us in a visualization. We'll ask Reverend Catherine to come back for the universal blessing. And Reverend Bergman will lead us in an experiential sharing. You know, I don't know that I've ever spent more than an hour thinking or talking about love before. So for me, this has been a terrific opportunity to do so. In preparing for tonight, I thought a little bit about what I wanted to get out of tonight's ceremony, tonight's service, really. And you know, I really have achieved that tonight because I've reached out and gotten to know a few more people in the All Faiths Seminary International and reconnected with many of you, and I'm grateful for that. I'm not just sure what's going to happen here over the next hour, but I wish all of you to have more love, that's for sure. So I think that's something we can all really use. And maybe this is a start. So here's to an extra hour of love in your day. In terms of seasonal observations, there are basically three to cover tonight. Two of them Christian, one of them from the Hindu traditions. Candlemas. This is a Christian holiday that celebrates three occasions: the presentation of the child Jesus, Jesus' first entry into the temple, and the Virgin Mary's purification. The second, which we noted earlier this week, Valentine's Day. I hope you noted it, because if you didn't, you're probably into some trouble by now. St. Valentine actually originated as a Christian feast day, honoring one or two St. Valentines. There actually were a St. Valentine. However, these days, as you know, it's most commonly known as a Hallmark holiday, a great event for restaurants, chocolate shops, and florists for sure. Sangha is actually a commemoration of Buddha's first sermon. I kind of Googled what that was about because I was curious as to what Buddha had to say in that first sermon. And his messages were to be kind and respect the lives of others. And of course, as we know, the Buddha talked a lot about suffering, how to relieve suffering. And so in this sermon, he also talked about the ways to overcome our sorrows. Now I'd like to introduce Reverend Catherine Congdon and ask her to conduct this invocation. Reverend Catherine? You're on mute.
Oh, thank you, Reverend Tom. Sorry about that. I forgot I was on mute. So our invocation, New Light Temple was founded by Rabbi Joseph Gelberman as a haven where people of all beliefs and backgrounds could joyously come together to share their bountiful and varied gifts of spirit. New Light Temple is the ordaining body for All Faiths Seminary International. Our purpose is to provide a sacred space for people of all faiths and ages to celebrate diverse religious and spiritual traditions. We gather for connection, inspiration, solace, and healing while fostering understanding, peace, love, and unity. In the words of Gandhi, I offer you peace. I offer you love. I offer you friendship. I see your beauty. I hear your need. I feel your feelings. My wisdom flows from the highest source. I salute this source in you. Let us work together for unity and peace. And in the words of Rabbi Gelberman, never instead of, always in addition to. Back to you, Reverend Tom.
Thank you, Reverend Catherine. So here we are, love and friendship. It's kind of interesting. Over the last few weeks, kind of preparing for tonight, did some reading about love, came across some wonderful things, some of which I'm going to share with you tonight. Interesting enough, this morning, I actually got an email from Marianne Williamson. She does a daily meditation. And interesting that today, the meditation was remembering that love is the meaning of my life. Actually, there's one sentence here, a couple of sentences here I'd like to just read from that meditation. One is, love is what we were born with. Fear is what we learned here. The spiritual journey is the relinquishment or unlearning of fear and the acceptance of love back into our hearts. Love is the essential existential fact. To be consciously aware of it, to experience love in ourselves and others, is the meaning and the purpose of our lives. I just thought that was poetic and something that came into my inbox today that I just had to read. So Love and Friendship actually happens to be the title of a 2016 movie based on a Jane Austen novella. Fun fact to know and tell. It's a really simplistic topic, right? You'd think, but I don't know what I can tell you that you don't already know about love and friendship, but I'm going to try tonight. When I think about love, I actually think about songs. There's so many of them out there. You know, as Tina Turner says, what's love got to do with it? I'd say practically everything. I believe, like the Beatles did, that all you need is love. And I agree with Andy Williams that love is a many splendid thing. And that's an oldie but a goodie, I suppose. I want to know what love is, to use a phrase from one of the songs by the band Foreigner. So tonight, we'll review how some faith traditions represent love in a wedding ceremony. Because after all, love and marriage go together like a horse and, you got it, carriage, right? So there must be some Frank Sinatra fans out there. If you're wondering who wrote the Book of Love, well, it wasn't me. I wrote a book called Love in a Suitcase, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Anyway, I hope you feel the love tonight. This love boat is about ready to sail, and I hope you're all on board with that so far. By the way, in preparing for tonight, I went through my files and folders from the seminary, and I looked through our songbook, which I really enjoyed and remember fondly of Reverend Kathleen guiding us into a number of songs. There were two in particular, Crystal Blue Persuasion, that you may remember, and Give Me Love, the George Harrison tune. So maybe we might encourage Reverend Natalia to some night have a sing-along or karaoke night with us. Speaking of AFSI, while love was all around us in every sight and every sound, during our studies, I thought it was interesting to pull out my notebook again and review some quotes from some of the things that we study. One thing that many of us may have received when we graduated was this booklet called Spiritual Truth from Rabbi Gelberman. It's 31 days of reflections. It's really kind of a cool booklet. I've looked at it many times. I looked at it recently, came across day 9, where Rabbi talks about love with love. And I just wanted to kind of review that with you, just read that with you tonight. Love with love. Love is a feeling which is unique because the receiver and the giver are bound together in the highest fulfillment. When we give love, we are reenacting the primordial act of creation. For only by love could God fashion humankind. When someone takes the love we offer, it is the greatest act of giving because it gives the lover his reason for living. I mean, isn't that true? But love has vulnerability. Love needs receptivity, even as a seed needs soil and cannot flourish if tossed in a tin can. And he wraps this up by saying, to love wisely, we must believe in love and nurture love. To love wisely, we must be in love with love. To love wisely, we must love with love. I just thought this was just beautiful. It's something that we may have visited following our ordination, but here it is again. Some of you may remember Reverend Dr. John Mundy talked about mystical experiences, and he had fashioned 17 characteristics of a mystical experience. I'm sure we think sometimes love is somewhat mystical. And while it didn't make the top 10, it did make number 12, which is love is all there is. And also, another note from Rabbi Gelberman, which I thought was worth repeating here. How do we choose life? Top of the list, L, right? L, life, love, to be loving unconditionally. That's how we choose life. I wish that I really had something as profound as this quote to share with you. But I'm really no expert when it comes to love. I have to tell you that I've been very blessed to have been growing up in a very loving family. My parents, I live with my grandparents, my parents, my sister. It's interesting that the way they express love is a bit different than the way my wife and her family expresses love. I grew up sort of in a German culture where we didn't really do a lot of hugging and kissing, but my wife sure did. And I actually kind of like it. So I think the interesting thing here is that, love is really everything. It has been everything to me. And it's an experience. I had a Course in Miracles facilitator here who led a study group here in Schenectady for a number of years. And he used to talk about forgiveness being everything. And I think he was right. Forgiveness is everything. But love is right up there as well. And it's so important to forgiveness. Love, I believe, is really the only thing that is real. We might think there are different kinds of love, and certainly there are a lot of different ways to express it. And given my experiences with weddings and interfaith, I thought it might be helpful to review how love is expressed in some wedding ceremonies. This happens to be a photo we took a couple of years ago of a wedding that I officiated. It was an interfaith wedding. And I get a lot of chances to do Christian weddings, interfaith, periodically, and they're a real treat to do. I think expressions of love in interfaith wedding ceremonies, well, in any wedding ceremony really, covers 3 areas. There are rituals, such as candle lighting and hand fasting. Readings, of course. Corinthians 13 from the New Testament, that's certainly one of the more popular ones that couples may decide to include in their wedding ceremony, as well as poems or even song lyrics. Gibran's On Marriage is certainly one of the more popular ones that I've seen. And prayers, the Lord's Prayer, Marianne Williamson wrote a book of prayers called Illuminata. There was a very popular one from her book that couples were often asked for. And then there are traditional prayers like the Irish blessing, which may fit into a wedding ceremony quite nicely. So a few here. How is love appearing in some of these ceremonies? Well, in Baha'i, I found this quote. It is therefore evident that in the world of humanity, king and sovereign is love. Love gives life to the lifeless. Love lights the flame in the heart that is cold. Love brings hope to the hopeless and gladdens the heart of the sorrowful. I just thought that was quite beautiful. And in Christianity, of course, Corinthians 13, Paul's letter to the Corinth, where he talks about love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. That's certainly another beautiful one. In Confucianism, you hear the term Jen, which is equivalent to human benevolence. The message there is simply, to love others. And I found that in the Hinduism ceremonies, there's a 7-step ceremony, one of which highlights the fact that we shall be lifelong friends. There's also a touching of the heart ceremony in Hinduism, where the bride and groom place their hands upon their hearts and recite a phrase, I give you my heart. In Judaism, from the Song of Songs, there is a phrase that's quite beautiful, which is love is infinitely strong, a flame of the Lord himself. And there's certainly a lot of beautiful things from the Song of Songs. This happens to be a good one, I think. And in Sufism, Rumi, the poet, has said, apart from love, everything passes away. And you may have heard some of these. I've been a Course in Miracles student for probably 15 years or more. That's actually how I became interested in All Faiths Seminary International. I was at a workshop in Utica, New York. It was a Course in Miracles workshop that John Mundy was leading. And he had asked me if I'd ever been interested in the Interfaith Seminary. And at the time I hadn't been, but he planted the seed, and a year later, I enrolled. But the Course in Miracles has a lot to say about love. One of the things that I remember most about the Course is it talks about having a choice, really. Things are either love or a call for love. And that's always kind of been an important thing to me. When it comes to miracles, it says that miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. And the real miracle is the love that inspires them. And in this sense, everything that comes from love is a miracle. I wrote a book, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that experience. As many of you, I was sort of isolated during the pandemic, and I found myself kind of cooped up in this house during 2020 and even before that. I was basically stuck here and a bit bored. I decided to go in the basement finally, and at my wife's suggestion, kind of clean up some of the clutter that was down here. One of the things that was here, sitting on a shelf, was this suitcase, which is in this photo. The suitcase was something that I retrieved from my uncle's apartment when he passed away in 2013. And I knew there were letters in the suitcase. I actually had opened it up when I was in his apartment, and there were love letters that he had written to my aunt back in the late 1940s. They had a long distance relationship. He was in a little town outside of Rochester, New York, called Savannah, and she was in Buffalo. So it was a big city girl and small city guy. And these letters were really something. He had held on to them for 60 or more years, apparently. And then I acquired them when he cleaned out his apartment. When I cleaned out his apartment in 2013. I didn't really have the heart to throw them out since he hadn't. So I started to take the opportunity of the pandemic to finally open that suitcase up and start reading them. So I did. Actually, I read them twice. And I found in those letters some great messages and lessons about relationships, about marriage. And I thought it would make a nice token, nice gift for engaged couples or recently married couples. So I worked on that book and I published it last year. There are a lot of lessons in those letters. One of the ones I think that means the most to me is about communication. Communication really is the key. And when it comes to communication, it needs to be authentic. And really, there really is nothing more authentic than a handwritten note. I think there's something going on in the alchemy of letter writing, which is kind of a lost art these days. But, you know, when you go from your heart to your head to your hands, something kind of happens and makes these letters very special. And I don't think that people today are ever going to save a text message for 30 years or an email, but they might save a handwritten letter. And so I've encouraged couples to write handwritten notes. Word choice makes an awful lot of difference as well. It's how you say it, not just what you say. You don't always have to be serious. There can be some levity in your messages, and don't have to be writing an epistle either. Brevity is also important. But transparency, being honest and open, always key, no matter whether it's written or just having a conversation with someone. And feedback. Did you understand what I said? Are we on the same page? These are the kind of the keys, I believe, that make communication work and what makes a marriage and a relationship work. I found one I just kind of wanted to share with you tonight. This happens to be a little note that my aunt wrote my uncle. I thought it was kind of cute. She writes, Bill, I bought this tie for a man before. I never bought a tie for a man before, and I thought this would be a good time to get in a little practice. A mail clerk helped me select them, and when I told him that you were in a conservative side, he laughed and said that a tie is to a man what a hat is to a woman, a new lease on life. And when a woman bought a hat that went with nothing she owned, she just went out and bought something to go with it. Maybe you'll have the same. And I just thought it was one of my favorite notes that I found in this suitcase. So that's what I had to kind of tell you tonight about love and friendship. I appreciate you talking and listening to me tonight. And I wanted now to turn this over to Reverend Dr. Bud James for visualization.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I am feeling the love tonight. It is certainly in the air. I love all of those things that you shared. I'd like to hear some more. I have your book and I'm enjoying reading it. So I enjoy reading all the fun little things that you're sharing with us in this whole process. What I'd like to do now is share with you a simple, powerful heart meditation that you can do anytime you want to return to peace. We've all had situations in our lives where we're feeling maybe not the love, and we're feeling agitated or upset or challenged in any way, shape, or form. And so the question is not that I'm challenged. The real question becomes, how soon can I move back into a state of peace, into a state of calm? And I'm sure that all of you have different ways of doing that. I'm going to share one tonight that is part of this theme, and it's called a heart meditation. And it's based on a process where we start to realize very, very simply that there is another way of us to see things. There's another way for us to experience things, and it has everything to do with what we're holding in our heart. So I would like to invite you all to move into a comfortable position with your feet on the floor and close your eyes and bring your attention to the breath flowing in and out, in and out. And as you do, Perhaps you can become aware of other sensations. Notice the depth of your breath, the rhythm of your breath, the temperature of your breath. And when you're ready, allow yourself to take an even deeper breath and hold it for a moment. And now experience a feeling of letting go on the exhale. That's right. Letting go of tension, letting go of responsibilities, letting go of concerns. And if you like, place a hand on your abdomen and bring your attention there. On the in-breath, allow your abdomen to gently expand, relaxing and expanding. And on the out-breath, allow your abdomen to gently contract. Expand and contract. Imagine that with each inhalation, that you're breathing in comfort. And with each exhalation, that you're releasing any remaining tension. Inhale, relax, and expand. Exhale, gently contract. And now bring your awareness to your heart as you breathe in and out. As you, if you like, you can place your hand on your heart. And from this place, gently and without effort, visualize, imagine, or feel a golden ray extending from the divine down to you. This golden ray is flowing down around you and through you. Allow this connection with the divine to comfort you, ground you, and gently fill your heart. Allow your breath to move a little more deeply in and out of the middle of your chest, enlivening the center of the chest, the center of the heart. And now, visualize, imagine, or experience a small flame burning in the center of your heart. This is a beautiful, gentle, divine flame. And allow each breath to kindle this flame. As you breathe into the flame, it expands, creating a warm glow in the heart. And as you breathe out, it transforms the energy and sends divine blessings to yourself and others. Breathing in, transforming, and breathing out. And now as you're resting here, breathing in this space, you may notice that there's a particular challenge that comes to mind, perhaps something that you're dealing with now or will be dealing with. First, recognize that this is a thought. Let's see this challenge as a thought. And we have the option of attaching ourselves to that thought and creating a thought universe all around that thought. Or we can simply observe the thoughts and breathe them into the flame in the heart and transform them. Allow your heart flame to transmute these challenges into peace, grace, lessons, and blessings. And while you have these thoughts, it's easy to see that you're much, much more than these thoughts. Breathe them into the flame in your heart. Allow them to transmute. And observe them breathing out, transforming into peace, grace, lessons, and blessings. And as you do that, you'll find it easier and easier to simply observe these thoughts, breathe them into that heart flame, and transform them into blessings. Gently, with openness, continue breathing into that flame in the heart. Let each breath bring calmness and ease, transforming everything into blessings and grace. Sense your capacity to rest unshaken in the circumstances of life. Become aware of your ability to be open, alive, and present with all that arises. Be aware of the divine golden light that always surrounds you, heals you, loves you, and blesses you. And as you feel this divine presence, allow your awareness to come fully into the present moment, into the right here, right now. Be aware of your feet on the floor. Notice your breath gently moving in and out. And whenever you're ready, take a deep breath and gently open your eyes. I wish you endless peace and heartfelt transformation. And I would like to ask Reverend Catherine Cogden to come back and provide to us the universal blessing.
Thank you, Reverend Bud. Our universal blessing. The divine bestows these blessings on us all: miraculous love and providence, comfort, hope, and healing, understanding hearts, resistance to temptation, freedom from egoism, equal vision, faith, devotion, and wisdom, spiritual progress and inner strength, virtuous hearts, compassion for the less fortunate, love for all. May these blessings of the divine rest upon us. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May we lift the veil and see the divine spark in all of them. Peace. Shalom. Shanti.
Thank you, Reverend Catherine. And I would like to now invite Reverend Gujan Bergman to come forward and conduct the experiential sharing portion of tonight's service. Reverend Gujan.
Thank you, Reverend Bud, and thank you, Reverend Catherine, and Reverend Tom. That was great. I really loved your presentation. So as those of you know who've been coming to these services for the past few months, we have this experiential sharing segment at the end of each service. And the idea is to move a little bit away from the head and into the heart and speak more from experience than from dogma. It's not, oh, I read this, but rather I experienced this. I felt this. This comes from my own personal experience of something. And I don't think there is any more fitting topic to experience than love. So, but if you could move on to the question. The question we have for everybody tonight, and I hope you'll think about it for a moment here and then chime in, is what is your personal experience of spiritual love and friendship? And we added the word spiritual here because, of course, this is a spiritual service. But I got an email yesterday, and it was from a person who was in one of my courses earlier this year. And she said, what do you mean by the word spiritual? Because I'm a non-believer, and I see people use this all the time. What do you mean by the word spiritual? And then I had to explain to her that it largely depends on context, that people use the word spiritual in many, many different contexts. So to some, it may be a spiritual feeling. To others, it may be, I'm a spiritual person because I'm religious. Others say I'm spiritual because I'm not religious, and so on and so forth. So adding the word spiritual here doesn't mean that it has to be something deep or profound or way meaningful, but just something that really touches you deeply. So as an example of that, what is your experience of spiritual love, something that touches you deeply or has spiritual meaning to you, and friendship? And I'm going to open the floor. Now, if you know how to use Zoom, you can go to the bottom here to reactions, and there's a little button there to raise your hand if you want to speak. If you don't know how to use that or don't have the type of device that works that way, you can also just raise your physical hand, and I will call on you. So who wants to chime in first with the question? What is your experience of spiritual love and friendship?
Okay, so when it comes to friendship, I can tell you that I had a friend, I still do, actually, someone that I've known for over 35 years, went to high school with, took many trips with. Our families were very close. But like some families, we had a disagreement, and it was around, some of the elections, if you will, and that kind of shocked me, that we didn't apparently have the same values after all of those years. And, it hurt. It was a personal thing. It kind of hurt. And it took me a while to kind of get over it and look beyond, what I was kind of hearing and seeing, really to what I kind of knew, which was that this person was really the same good person that I had known all those years. So I know that kind of happens with some friendships, and I just thought I would kind of share that.
Well, thank you, Tom. I mean, that's a very common experience in the past few years. I had a course with Charter for Compassion called Our Shared Humanity. There were For the last 5 years, about 1,000 people went through it. And about 80% of them talked about personal friendships having suffered over political differences for the first time in their lives. So this is not a new thing, but thank you for sharing that, because, and it hurts, right? It hurts. Yes, Kathleen.
Hi, everyone. What came to my mind right away is this experience of New Light Temple. Because, when the pandemic started, this idea of having an online temple, church, spiritual gathering, whatever you want to call it, started to grow, started to percolate. And we were able to, through our hearts, really gather together for no other reason than to just express the divinity that's in all of us, to be together, to support each other. And we connected with alumni that we haven't seen in 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 15 years. And some of our board members came in and presented, and we did go through some transition last summer, if the current board of advisors remembers. And yes, it was painful, but we came through that so beautifully. We handled that so well that we actually grew another branch of this New Light Temple. It seemed like, the issues that happened really helped us to take our spiritual eyes and eyeglasses and really see God through this. How can we take that experience and really just transform it into something even better? And I really feel that that's what happened here. And I'm so grateful, and I feel just so happy to be with all of you, because you're all just really pouring your heart from that deep part of you. It's sharing God's love with no other motive than to just share it. We could all be doing something different tonight. We could be doing a million different things, but we've made a conscious decision that this is a way for us to really connect with that deep part of us and share it and express it. And I'm just really happy to be part of this. And I just feel so proud of all of you. That's it.
Thank you, Reverend Kathleen. I mean, that brings to mind so many things. And if I may, I think I'm going to jump in next and share. There is something when you're around people who have a similar spiritual interest that brings out a special feeling that's very hard to find in other circumstances. I don't know what the reason is, but I've belonged to groups of, reading clubs over the years where we've been reading and then bringing our personal experiences to the table, and created really strong bonds with people in those circumstances. But at the same time, after I went to All Faiths Seminary back in 2017, I started going to interfaith events. And then I didn't have anything in common with those people on a belief. We didn't have the same belief structure, but we came there to connect nonetheless, driven by some sense of compassion derived from our beliefs and wanting to connect with each other despite different beliefs. And I thought there was something very beautiful about that, and very, it felt like love in action. It felt like I am going to extend my heart, my being, into a space which I don't know if it's going to be received in a way that I'd like it to be received, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to be around people who believe very differently than I do. And there's something special about that. And that's why I love going to interfaith events. They've changed me on a subtle, everyday level where I walk in with a little bit of trepidation, don't know what I'm getting into. Like, oh, I don't know, these people, they look so different. They believe so differently. And then I walk away just feeling not completely changed, but just, with a stronger belief in humanity is what I find. And that's, there's something there that's bigger than me at work. And finally, I couldn't share about love and friendship without talking about my 26-year relationship with a yoga teacher that I first met in Iceland called Yogi Shanti Desai, who came from India, moved to the States, and then started coming to Iceland on a regular basis. And it took a long time, but through the act of being curious, I created a strong connection with him. And now we speak every 2 weeks still. And I've helped him with dozens of his books. And, that was funny when he found out that I could write, then he'd go, oh, good, John, I have this book and I have this book. And had all these ideas he wanted to share. But that was the love, is feeling that bond and that sense of satsang, of connecting through the spiritual search. That was really beautiful. So anybody else want to share about their experience of spiritual love and friendship? Oh, Donald, do you want to go ahead first?
When you mentioned groups of people who have similar spiritual structure, it is one kind of group. And I recall, I used to go up a lot when Ken Wapnick was doing his workshops up in the Catskills. It was a convenient 2.5-hour drive for me, and it was a good weekend. But you could go up there, and the people you would see periodically, it's like there was no effort into immediately entering into very deep conversation. There was, that was a kind of a sense that it was so welcoming to be able to do it. There was no judgment, and it was just wonderful, wonderful experience. And I have great memories of that. I saw friends from that time period. And on the other hand, there are those who have been people in my past that I haven't seen in years. And I make it a habit of calling these people up on occasion. And the conversations immediately go back to the experiences we've had together. It's like no time has passed. It could be like 20 years, or it might be just like last year. And it's that kind of connection that you feel, the love, this friendship that will always be there. I have a friend I play golf with once a year in Arizona, and it's the only time we ever see each other, but we have a great time every time we get together. So those are my kind of two extremes.
That's wonderful, Donald. And I can really relate to that. We used to do this back in Iceland, where I come from, where once a year we'd do a New Age kind of spiritual meet, and hundreds of people would come. And a lot of them we would not see except that one time a year. And there would be so much hugging going on, and everybody would just get right into it for those 3-4 days that we'd get together. And there's something of value, of beauty there that's worth preserving. Catherine, you want to share?
Okay, save the best for last. I think that, what everyone's been saying, I agree with. I think, we've all had those kinds of experiences, and, in a group that is spiritually based, regardless of what the religion is, for me, the basis of all of that is love. And, all the things that most religions are about, kindness and compassion, and, we bring that with us. It's in our hearts, and, there's a spiritual aura, I don't know what you want to call it, or, field around us maybe, that brings us to another level. And yeah, there's that level of connection and understanding when you're coming from that same place of love. And, that, it helps with friendships. There are certain people that you see and you just see there's this light and almost like love emanating from them. It makes it very easy to have that kind of connection with someone like that. And this group has been wonderful. All Faiths was a real blessing for me to come. People I met there, people I've met since, and I guess that's my 2 cents.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much, Reverend Catherine. Okay, now, Bud, you have your hand up. So up next, you're next.
I want to comment on 2 things. One is what I heard, all of the wonderful insights, is this notion of timelessness that has to do with love, where true love lasts forever. And the idea of picking up on right where we left off 20, 30 years later, absolutely. I know that experience, and it's so powerful. I wanted to bring in a different perspective. And one of the concepts that really enraptured me was this notion of unconditional love. And we hear it spoken of in all of the great belief systems. The Course talks about it incessantly. My own personal experience of unconditional love came in little snippets from lots of different people, but in a great, huge way from my Labrador retriever. I experienced absolute unconditional love from Sally, my black lab, because she taught me what that was. She taught me what it meant to truly love unconditionally. And it doesn't matter what's going on. It doesn't matter whether she's been good or bad, or I'm late, or I'm in a bad mood, or I'm on time. It doesn't matter. I experienced unconditional love. And I thought about that constantly throughout all of the 15 years that she was with us, of how that's how we should act. And that she was my greatest teacher in how we should interact with one another. And recognize that no matter what's going on, that love is the most important thing. And you can show how much you love with a wag of your tail, or a big slurp, or just a smile, or a happy bark. But there's lots of ways that we can do that with one another. And sure, we interpret that as hugs and handshakes and smiles and warm words, but it's the same. It's the language of love. And that's what we all have to recognize, is what is our love language? And there's books on that topic, of course. And I think, Tom, you even mentioned something about that whole notion of love language. And I won't go there, but this is what we have to learn for ourselves. What is my love language? And if someone is speaking to me in their love language, and I'm not quite feeling it, I have to realize that they are being true to their love language. They're speaking from their heart. They're wagging their tail. They're giving me that big smile. They're ready to go on a new adventure. And it becomes one where we're all on this grand adventure together. And what we're really trying to learn is love, and how to love one another unconditionally, because that's exactly the expression of the divine in us and through us.
That's perfect, Bud. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, Natalia, I see.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I gotta come in on a song. It's always a song that takes me there. And Reverend Tom, you brought me there to that special place of spiritual love, in the memory of love is a many splendored thing. Not so much Frank Sinatra, but I also remember a recording of Mario Lanza singing this, and my father adored Mario Lanza. Absolutely adored Mario Lanza. And I'm just looking up because I had to go right to the lyrics, because the brand, so it's, love is a many splendored thing. It's the April rose that only grows in the early spring. I love this next line. I gotta sing it. Love is nature's way of giving, a reason to be living. Love is nature's way of giving, a reason to be living. Don't you just love that line?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then the other thing, oh my God, Reverend Tom, I loved your book. Your book was so much a part of my life over this last year during COVID, also when I went into my basement and started to tear it apart at the seams and tried to put it all back together, stitch by stitch. I so enjoyed the vintage of this love expressed in your aunt and your uncle. This was so cool. You know, and then your love and marriage go together like a horse and carriage. I've been trying to remember that, but I remember that it ends with, you can't have one without the other. Wasn't it something like that? I am always brought in. I mean, this happens to me constantly. You say something, it strikes the title of a song, a lyric of a song, and I'm off. I'm not even listening to what you're saying. I'm off in the lyric of the song after that. But I just wanted to express a joy in the spiritual love, and also to you, Reverend Goodjohn. That piano piece you composed was just awesome. It brought me into a piece of imagery where I felt as though I was floating in the oneness of the allness of the isness of the usness. It was great.
Thank you so much.
That's all I got to say for now.
Thank you, Natalia.
Ah.
Lovely. Anyone else want to share?
I'm going to share something very briefly, but it's more by referring to it, because just last Sunday I read a piece at a meditation group that we participate in every Sunday about love, and specifically interpersonal love, which is not necessarily romantic, but it covers all the bases of what we've been hearing. And it was sort of a defensive interpersonal love against some spiritual teachers who say, oh, love today is just a business, you know, it's just you do this for me and I'll do that for you, and it's just exchange. And the only real love, in the words of such spiritual teachers, is love for God. And they have a more narrow definition. But even yogis and people that I respect as spiritual teachers have said this kind of thing, oh, what they call love today is just business. And so I was inspired to write something in defense of, no, there's love between people, whether it's relatives, mother, son, or husband and wife, or teacher and student, or, Bud, your thing about a pet. There's, I mean, you can talk about Shanti, I think. There's so many different forms that what's genuine about love for me that makes it spiritual is there's no question about it. You don't ask yourself, is this love or not? When you know, you know. And I think that's something that only happens when it happens, if you will. If you finally meet somebody and you feel love, whether it's romantic or appreciation for a great teacher or a great writer or a great song, whatever it is, it's an inner knowing that's unquestionable. You don't have to ask anybody else. You don't have to appeal to any outer authority. You know love in your own heart, and that's what makes it genuine, and that's what makes it spiritual. And ultimately, the highest spirit is love. So that's my summary. But I think I'll share by email that piece I wrote. It was actually about 20 years ago, but it was much too long for something for me to share here. I was surprised when I read it last Sunday, and I said, oh, this was longer than I thought. So that's all.
Thank you so much, Larry.
Please share. We'll make sure that we get it to everybody. Thank you so much, Larry.
Yes, Barbara?
Yep, just did. I really liked and resonated with everything that everyone said. Reverend Natalia, Mario Lanza, he was one of my favorites. Loved the movies that he was in. Just, the voice on him was just so unbelievable. Well, for me, unconditional love in my life has always been God and the angels. A love that I can always trust. It's not even about trusting, it's a knowing that love is there. And the miracles in my life, the magic that has unfolded in my life, all that is God and the angels. And on a personal or interpersonal relationships, well, I had a wonderful friend She loved me unconditionally. I loved her unconditionally, and she made her transition in 2014, but she's still here with me because I feel her all the time. So that unconditional love, it doesn't die when when the soul releases the body. That love does not die. That love is always there. I've also experienced love in nature. When I'm sitting in nature, sitting by the lake, sitting under a tree, laying in the grass, that's unconditional love too. Some people ask, where's God? Well, I say God is, look in nature. Look around you in nature, and there's God, wherever you look. I've also had some wonderful, loving experiences. When I was in seminary, 2008, I met some absolutely wonderful people. Of course, Rabbi was, he was unconditional love. He really, really was. He was an incredible angel, a wonderful teacher. And I had some just phenomenal experiences in seminary. And recently I joined a meditation group, December of 2020. And because I'm alone here, they poured love out to me. They nourished my soul. I received unconditional love. And recently I had a birthday, and it was just absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. It was like I was on the verge of going to a dark place because of the isolation. And the day of my birthday, it was like, it was a healing, a wonderful, absolutely wonderful healing that I received from them. God is there. God is always there. But human beings need each other too. Nikki Giovanni, she wrote a poem, very, very short poem, and it was, and if ever I touched a life, I hope that life knows that I know that touching was and still is and will always be the true revolution. Human beings need to touch. That's one of our purposes for being here, and that's love. That's absolutely love. And if somebody touches you and that person is not about love, you know it. You can feel it. Even when they speak to you, just their interaction with you, if there's no love there, you know it. You absolutely know it right away. Unconditional love, first unconditional love, God, the angels, and all the wonderful people that have been in my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you so much for sharing. We appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay, that I think wraps it up for the experiential sharing segment. One more thing on my end I was thinking about is there was this definition that I bought into years ago when I read Scott Peck's The Road Less Traveled, when he defined love as the giving of your time and energy and money to another person to help them grow. And I think my whole time as being a husband and father, that has been at the center of what I've been wanting to do, is to give of myself, of my time, of my energy to help another person grow. And sometimes the expression of love is there, but the feeling is not quite there. And I'm talking about 5:30 a.m., waking up, helping the kids get to school, doing the laundry, making the lunch, but the act of love is there. And you may not be feeling it like you're feeling it in a spiritual group or something, right? You're feeling really high on love, but the act of love is there. And I don't think we should dismiss that either, is you can act lovingly by giving of yourself, even if you are not in the midst of the feeling at that exact moment. Okay, thank you so much. Reverend Bud, over to you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Let's go to our next section here. So we have our announcements, and just at the top of the list, of course, is take a look at our interfaith themes for the year. As you can see, we've got a lot going on. We've got something every month. And again, the third Thursday of every month and 7 p.m. ET is when we start. We've got a lot on the plate. We've got a lot of people who are signing up, but we still need a few more volunteers. Anyone who is interested, if any of these upcoming topics resonate with you, speak to you, if you've got any input, any insights, something you'd like to say, hey, take a look at this particular passage or this author or this concept, we would love to hear it. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how we can make each of our months reflect a little bit more divinity and a little bit more grace from
And if
each
I may
other.
add one thing there, Bob.
Absolutely.
Yes, we're also always looking for any kind of performance of any original music, any kind of poetry, any kind of art, rituals, anything. If you record yourself for 1 to 3 minutes doing something where there's singing, there's chanting, there's lighting, special religious ceremony that you engage in, we would love to include that at some future services. So at least keep us in mind and have your phone out if you're doing something like that, or if you record a little bit of music somewhere and you thought, well, I don't know what to do with this. Well, at least send it to us and we'll see if we can incorporate it into our services.
Thanks, good job. Yeah, that's always lovely. So next month, our focus is going to be on renewal and growth as we move into spring, or at least so we hope we're moving into spring by then. And that'll be led by Reverend Catherine Congdon, and I'm really looking forward to it. I know she's been giving a lot of thought and a lot of love into that topic, so we should all feel renewed and growing, I imagine, well, at least spiritually. A couple of other announcements. John Mundy is going to be starting up another class here on just a couple of days, February 22nd, comparing the teaching of Jesus in the Gospels and A Course in Miracles. He teaches nearly every week on ACIM, and he focuses on the practical application of course principles. And you can sign up at his website, and I just dropped that in chat, and I'll share it again in email at miraclesmagazine.org. If you have any upcoming events that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear them. You can send them to us at thenewlighttemple@gmail.com. We would love to hear from any of you. If you've got something that you know is coming up, an event that even if you're not attending, but you think others might, let us know. It will be distributed out. We do have a PayPal account that we would like to offer you to bring anything that you feel that you would like to provide us, because we do have some simple costs. This is all a effort of deep love and friendship in amongst with our theme, but there are real costs that take toll on us that we all spend our hearts on, and love to have you participate as a supporter of the New Light Temple. Thank you very much. This has been a wonderful evening. I've loved the topic. And Tom, I believe there's something you'd like to close with. So I would like to introduce our wonderful leader for tonight, Reverend Tom Schwendler.
Thank you, Reverend Bud. Speaking of Miracles Magazine, I never throw anything away. So I actually have the 2015 issue of Miracles Magazine, much to my wife's probably dismay that I clutter the basement now with more stuff. But I came across this poem. It's a short poem. I thought it would be appropriate to read tonight. It's entitled, Love is the Way I Walk in Gratitude, and it's by John Mundy. It is not insane. Is it not insane to offer thanks because another suffers more? Or think that it is good because men go to war? There is no place to hide, no place where we can run. We have one function here, to become, at last, just one. We can escape our prison, though we thought it lacked the door, when love is found at last, and we know of nothing more. A brother is an enemy, only if I see a rival. The only way out is loving him. In this is our survival. We offer thanks to God when all men find their freedom, and we learn at last we share his perfect kingdom. Make room for those who escape with you, the anxious and afraid, the sick, the weak, the needy, the despairing and dismayed. And those who mourn a seeming loss or feel apparent pain, who suffer cold or hunger or think they live in vain. We cannot retain some things still locked away as sins, and we only can escape when everybody wins. Love makes no comparisons, and gratitude is part of love when we know that all we have has come from God above. Let our brothers lean their weary heads upon our welcoming shoulders, and may we all find rest as enmity no more smolders. Let us be free of this insane world where all is ever erratic. The fear of God is undone at last, and forgiveness automatic. An ancient door swings free, and a long-forgotten word re-echoes in our memory. Today we think of gratitude in place of malice and revenge. And thank you all. Namaste. God bless you.